gods have abandoned this place." The whisper of a prophecy woke a young man up in the middle of the grey dust, cliffs, and rocks on the ground. The vision was still haunting his head. He was losing the sense of reality. "Wake up, you lazy butt!" A familiar, yet very old voice echoed in his memory. A firm, bearded man was standing upon him. "Wake the hell up, Archaelo!" He sat up like thunderstruck on the place where he had been lying, looked around without any clue where he was, how he got there, and where he was heading. He tried to get up as he was dropped back on the ground. "What the gods damn!" He groaned as the headache hit him like a bolt and brought the memories from his battlefield in his head. As he fell on the ground back again, another vision resurrected in his mind. An old man with dark brown skin and blind white eyes whispered repeatedly, "Gods have abandoned this place." He repeated the sentence again and again. The turban on his head was almost shaking as he was trembling with his whole body, as if he was in a deep trance and telling prophecy. The vision started to blur and eventually vanish, and Archaelo was returning to reality, back to the ground and atmosphere, which consisted of cliffs, big rocks, and mist all around, and did not seem safe at all. He whined from pain and thought he had been poisoned or was under a charm. Some muddling scenes from his previous battlefield were following his mind. Headache hit him as if a sword slid through his brain, and at the thought of the sword, he instantly remembered about his own. "My sword! Dagata!" He moved around and checked his clothes, where he felt the calming presence of his most loyal friend. Thank the gods. Archaelo touched his sword through his loose claws, grabbed the necklace on his chest with another hand, closed his eyes, breathed out, and started moving into the grey desert, filled only with big rocks, edgy cliffs, and dusty nothingness. A soothing whistle was cutting the mist and dark air as a tall figure was wandering on a non-existent path, surrounded by rocks, cliffs, and stones. "Go forward," he said to himself. "Move." But how the hell I have to know if I'm going forward? He stopped in place, breathing hard. He had been walking for almost several hours, but nothing out of his surrounding had changed. What did the old man say at this time? If you still see nothing, use your other senses. Breathe in and feel where the smell is fresher. But I can smell the hell out of here. Even the air is full here. He closed his eyes for a second and breathed out. Quiet. Concentrate. Concentrate in order to understand where to go further. Listen, don't think. He went up to a big rock and sat on it, with his legs crossed. He tangled his fingers into a hand mudra and closed his eyes. Suddenly, the necklace on his neck started to rotate, and a small wind blew out of nowhere. Archaelo breathed in and opened his eyes. So mote it be. He stood up, took the direction of the wind, and started whistling again. He continued walking as suddenly he heard a small crack under his sandal and saw a dead green leaf under his feet. He looked up and realized he had reached an entrance into the cave. Perfect! I think all the creatures on these lands must know that young Archaelo is afraid of close sittings, he sighed. Oof. At least I hope I won't be transmitted into a different galaxy through this portal-like tunnel. The knot of darkness was created within the edges of the cliffs that were erected as close as possible just to form a perfect, yet unsafe and pointy door. Archaelo entered and smelled the air coming out of the tunnel. The air was cold, yet fresh, and most importantly, did not bring the smell of death with itself. Archaelo did not wait for the permission of the gods and stepped into the darkness. Uncut darkness swallowed the unknown space. Archaelo relied on all of his human senses until he understood either abyss or boredom would eat him up. He closed his eyes for a minute, just to switch them into the crystal purple color. He looked around. Now it's clear, he told himself as he saw through the thick blackness. It truly was a tunnel, a cave with solid ground and vast space inside. He instantly noticed the skulls on the ground, covered with dead leaves and grass on certain places. Heads of the long deceased had been adorned by grass and coffins of the dead plants. But the absence of the bodies still caused confusion and doubt. It did not look like the most perfect burial place or a tomb, and the plants inside did not give any logical explanation. Archaelo's eyes saw everything, the space of 360 degrees, including the air becoming thinner to the left side from him. Archaelo started moving faster as he felt he was close to the exit. He went into a narrow tunnel and felt relief. The thin air could be seen even without his crystal sight. The grayness was slowly and lightly turning into whiteness as the mist of the cave was scattering and an outside exit was forming loosely. Gods are fair, he said to himself and headed for the exit. Archaelo broke the veil of the tunnel mist and was hit with the strong blow of air into his face. Facing a strong blow, which he eagerly breathed in, he realized he was standing in front of a bright forest cut outside of the cave. Archaelo stepped forward at the same second an arrow was thrown right to his face, stabbing the cave stone wall with its point. Now I see who were the owners of those heads. People here don't know the expression of hospitality. He took out his sword and held it tightly as he stood at the curved entrance into an unknown forest. Another arrow flew in his direction, which he rebounded with a quick strike. "What a pity," he said loudly. "I thought I had found a safe, stunning place, but a second even without entering it, I turned out to become the target of God knows who." Archaelo finished his word and cut the arrow flying fiercely into his direction into half. "Then guide me, Archaelo. How can I know it is truly you, and you have not come with an ill will, if I don't test you?" A voice echoed from somewhere. Archaelo looked around just to see over 50 people coming out of trees, bushes, and big plants. "Tell me, young warrior, do you have any other suggestion?" A woman came out of big leaves, approaching him directly. Her brown skin was glowing on the dim sunlight. Her bald head cut the beautiful, sharp features of her face. Her bright, white purplish monolith eyes illuminated the light of the brightest stars. Archaelo stood on his place, shook and unable to utter a word. He would not recall meeting this woman, the tribe, or this place even in his dream. But she spoke to him, knew him and his name, and what was most calming, did not seek to kill him. Over 50 other women and men came closer and surrounded him in a circle. The woman, who was dressed in leaves and ropes, covering her most seductive parts, came one-on-one with a glimmering face, which Archaelo took as a side smile. "So, as you are standing on the border, what would you choose?" she asked. "Sneaking as an enemy or entering as a friend?" It did not take much time for Archaelo to make a decision and bow to the woman standing in front of him. "Do I have any other choice to see the wonders of your kinship or to die in this beauty?" "You have not come here to die in this forest, Black Fox." He stumbled on place at hearing one of his many nicknames. "Then may I directly ask, what am I doing here? Where am I, and how do you even know me?" "Worries aside, warrior," the woman turned away and walked. "Eat and rest, because I'm not going to repeat if your mind and body are not relieved. I know what you have been through. Regenerate. This place will give you everything necessary for it. Fill your cups of power and we'll do the tweeting later." Archaelo stopped on place and looked at her. Should he trust her? Did he have to follow this unknown woman who was offering him help? The only thing he knew for sure was that the word trust meant murder in practice, and help was the equivalent for disaster. If he fought the whole group that surrounded him, but he didn't know how many of them were there that had not come out yet. He didn't know what these people and their strange leader were capable of, and most importantly, he had already stepped on their territory. Even if he killed each of them, he would only have a mythical forest kingdom he had no idea of, where its borders were, and the exit, which led to an unbreathable tunnel full of darkness and skulls. "I am taking your help and offer," he replied. "Like you had any other option," the woman smirked at him. A thought hit Archaelo's mind. The thought of this woman being some sort of a clairvoyant or a mind reader, so he instantly stopped thinking. "Then hear my word, Archaelo. This place can serve as the unnamed deathly ambience which can swallow your name, your history, and all your life. This is for the enemies who wish to come by sword and force and take this land, but for those who come with peace, it blesses them as paradise. So take all its merits and gifts and cherish them, warrior." Archaelo listened to the advice of the woman and bowed to her in response. "Guide him," she said to one of her people. A woman came out to take Archaelo separately. He followed her into different directions without any words. They were walking in the forest with all tall trees and plants and no presence of a livelihood. They had been walking until Archaelo decided to say something, when suddenly the woman stopped and turned around. "We've come." He frowned his brows into a questioning expression. "Look, I have slept basically everywhere and in every natural space, including the trees, but if there is any hidden house or... Try and shall see." Archaelo stood in confusion. "You have the power and the sight of the siege. Why don't you use it?" He was now more surprised by hearing about his special gift from a woman who he was seeing for the first time in his life, in the place where he had never been. "I guess you are right," he said finally. The last thing he wanted to use was his special powers, but he had to agree He closed his eyes and opened them in crystal purplish color, and saw something which made him awe. "The queen will greet you at the supper. She allowed you to keep your sword, so use it with caution." The woman took the last glance at him and turned around to disappear in the vast greenness and depth of the mythical jungle. Archaelo moved out the 2 big leaves of tall plants that served as the entrance door to his new apartment. He froze in astonishment and looked around. You never know what awaits you behind the big gate leaves. His new apartment was the insides of a big tree, a large, vast space with a wooden floor with some floral and leaf carpets, simple yet beautiful and artistic furniture, and everything all around to be enlisted as a luxurious class apartment. Either these people are generous and hospitable with their guests, or I am the special one to them. But according to their greeting, stick with the second one. Interesting if all of it will stay in place if I limit my sight. He put his hand on his one eye, and it turned back to hazel black as he put his hand down. Whoa! He sighed in surprise as his simple mortal eye only saw a great bundle of greens and jungle pieces trapped inside a big old tree. Gods are fair, I swear. He walked into the large room and collapsed on a big sofa, groaning with pleasure. Right. Water. I need to shower, especially when there will be a lady awaiting me in the evening. Archaelo, I hope you won't be dead by the evening. He amused himself as long as he could. At last he submitted to his mind and body, both of which urged to rest, and drifted off in a peaceful sleep. Gods shall reign again. The prophecy of the dragon must come true. Archaelo woke up all of a sudden. The vision was blurring in his head. He coughed and breathed air out and into his lungs. Again, let me rest a bit even here, he called out. A knock on the door hit his head like a hammer. He looked into its direction and recognized that the previous daylight was turned into a dark evening. The supper is ready. The queen is waiting, he heard from behind the doors. He remembered he had to deal with some queen, a mysterious forest, and a tribe who knew everything about him. He had dined and shared the table with all possible creatures before, including the beasts and the royalties, kings and queens, and either way he had heard of the code of the feast and knew about the formalities of behavior with the queen. Archaelo quickly refreshed his body and spirit in the waters that made the bathing corner of his room, and put out the clouses, which had been laid for him by some careful and caring hands. His new garment was similar to his own, vast, loose, and adorned with silver and purple lines. It made him surprise even more, as his new costume was repeating his previous clothes with the silver and purple lines he used to wear in the early days of his life, while serving at the court. He put his sword in his new clothing, held his hair up in a banged bun, and went to the door. As he opened the door, the woman who had guided him before was standing there. Have you been guarding my sleep? A warrior never leaves its target. Oh, nice to hear that. So I'm the target. The queen is waiting. If I'm the target, then why shouldn't you have come in? There was enough place for both of us. The woman instantly took out a bamboo stick and hit straight over his knee. Oh, that hurt! I have been warned to guide you, But for your hurting, I was not given any command. I see. I've heard the command, and I've felt the warning. It's clear. A nice evening, isn't it? Too nice. She moved her head around. Archaelo stared at her and the times around, where she was gazing, trying to solve this riddle. The evenings are rarely so nice here, especially at this time. Why? What is special about this time? He asked directly, out of interest and curiosity. It's exactly why you're here. You will have to shed light to most of these things. Be patient, and you shall receive all the answers. But until then, I will just tell you that the beauty you see here is rare, even for this place. What you are witnessing now is called the white nights, the starless nights. This is the 64th night in a row when we haven't seen our shining star of the night, Pleiadia. Some say it's the curse. For some, nothing wrong is even going on. I don't know. What I can tell for sure is that it's not the same as it has been, not the same as it was. Something has changed, for good or bad, I can tell for now. Archaelo sighed with a deep and confused face. I see. Do you? She asked in return. I hope you really do, 'cause now it's only up to you how our fates will be turned. He froze with his confused face expression. Before he would say a word, they had already come to a vast valley with the wonders he could only imagine. The green valley was occupied by a lake and the faraway cliffs marking the baselines for the falls and springs. The sound of the splashing water was enormous. Still, he could hear every whisper and each bird chirp coming from the distance. He walked to the long, large table, which was set and laid behind the lake. He stood stunned, with awe and pure surprise. I thought we had lost you to the kingdom of dreams. The queen let out a side smile on her brown, glimmering skin. I thought we would not see you today. Now Archaelo saw the queen. It was not the bald woman he had met before. She was standing next to the table at a distance from her. The queen turned out to be a different one. She positioned herself at the top middle of the table, wearing almost transparent bluish gown and a crown around her long to the ears black braids, shining with crystal lights of the moonstone. Your Majesty, bowed Archaelo. Welcome to the feast, Archaelo. She invited him with a hand gesture and a barely visible smile. May your presence bring peace to the valley of the great pond and the thousand springs. I bet you have never been here. I could not imagine this place existed in a real lifetime, he chuckled in response. To be honest, I can't even be sure I am in a real lifetime now. Everything is just too majestic. My eyes are not adjusted to the beauties nature shares. I have only seen the warfare. After all the bloodsheds, this place is like paradise. She leaned closer to him. Well, it is the paradise. Then welcome to the paradise. Her sharp monolith eyes were similar to the crystal purple eyes of her tribe, with the only difference that she had the green lights shining inside them. She was beautiful. Throughout all his life and journeys, Archaelo had seen many women, many different, beautiful women from all parts of the world. But this woman from the unknown origins and descent was probably the most beautiful he had ever seen. Her face, with its shape, angles, soft lips, high cheekbones, and the most seductive, deep, mysterious eyes, was the most perfect face he had seen in his life. Archaelo thought for a second that he was under a charm. He couldn't help staring into her eyes that reminded him of the depth of the ocean or the stargazing at the top of the mountain. He didn't dare to look down on her body. His mind was not listening to him. He grinned and finally looked down. "Please enjoy yourself. The food here is not usual to the one you eat, but it will gain you twice more energy than the mortal food." Her last words hit Archaelo. Mortal food? Where the hell I even am? Now I'm pretty sure I'm not in the mortal realms. Gods, help me out, let me understand. The thought of these people's ability to read the minds returned to him again, and he stopped thinking, looked at her, and enjoyed himself with the unusual food. The liquids in the plates and the fruit-like seeds in the bowls were so transparent and so colored that Archaelo couldn't think they could be consumed as food, and moreover, they were twice stronger than actual earthly food. As he was feeling the uninterrupted stare, Archaelo took a bowl with blue-green seeds and put one of them on his plate. Surprisingly, it was dreadfully delicious. It instantly reminded him of the rare seed of the river people who got the kernel once in 100 years, mixed with the flavor of the tea of the eastern sages. It was just something magical. The queen smiled as she saw the sparkle in his eyes. He took another big hearty bite and closed his eyes from pleasure. Archaelo could not tame his appetite and lust, which he had promised to control. Everything on the table was just too good and ideal. As his stomach was gradually being filled, Archaelo felt the undeniable timing to talk one-to-one. Only when the liquor from the glass he had drunk had flown into his veins, he realized he had made a mistake. "More wine?" he heard the voice. Archaelo looked at her, only seeing blurry vision of her purplish eyes. "What are your eyes?" he asked with difficulty, instead of asking what she had given him and what he had just drunk. "You wanted to say our eyes. They look alike, right?" She smiled. "No more drinking, I guess. I need you sober for the duty." "Duty?" he repeated tongue-tied. "What duty? Where?" The queen pointed at him to her servants. "Help him out. Look out for him not to knock out. The supper is over." She stood up. Archaelo, surrounded by 2 bodyguard keepers, was taking along with her. Archaelo was feeling as he was poisoned heavily, but with his brain still working and body being completely blocked. He felt he was walking on the grass and the images were changing into different colors, surroundings and nature. He tossed his head several times, opened his eyes widely and saw a dark blue-green swampy forest in front. He shook his head strongly and urged himself. His eyes changed and became crystal purple at once. He felt his strength coming back to him, and his mind returning, with dizziness leaving his body. "I see you are using your powers wisely, Archaelo," the queen noted even without turning to him. 2 guards around him looked at him instantly, little surprised and thrilled at his instant rehabilitation. "I wonder, do you use all of your powers? Or do you even know each and every of them?" "It doesn't matter at this time." She stopped and turned around. "I don't need hurting you. On the contrary, I need you, and I need you alive. And you almost killed me with your poisonous drink. If I were a simple human, I would be dead lying on the table. It was not poison, it was wine, our wine. You had to have immunity strong enough to endure it, but maybe I put too much on you. And yes, luckily you are not a simple human, Archaelo. She turned away and went to the swamp pond, looking down into it and up in the sky, as if she was waiting for something. The forest was all dark, with swamp or some type of pond cut through the land. The waters were dark, and as Archaelo saw from his place, it was glimmering in some parts. Now, no more time to waste. Come close. The guards put hands over him to take him, but Archaelo drove them back eagerly and walked to the woman at the top of the swamp. He looked into the waters to see some strange circles and symbols on the surface of the water, some of them shining at times. What on earth? Once they were simple lakes, as you had seen in front of the supper table. Now they have turned into muddy waters with these circles and symbols on surface. They began to transform when we recognized that our beloved star Pleiadia started to disappear. In the past it was west forest of my kingdom, keepers of the winter frost, the protector. Now they have turned into the death swamp. They were the sacred waters, Archaelo, pure spring waters capable to heal the sickness and the wounds. Now all they do is to destroy and kill. Archaelo looked at the waters, then looked around. The forest indeed looked dead, and entirely different from the one he was coming from. There was something unusual and sickening inhabiting and eating up this place. Haven't you tried to go inside and see? He asked, bending down, going closer and reaching his fingers for the waters. All who had tried are dead, she replied, and he instantly stopped his fingertips from dipping. He went back, took some pebbles from the ground, and gently threw them on the surface as the water shook and the pebbles disappeared. Archaelo saw something from the depths that reminded him of the bones and skulls looking up at him, and sensed an almost motionless blow of air that was coming from the water. He fell back in thrill. Oh, I see. He took a glance at the strange symbols and circles, then at the dark waters, and turned around. Look, I don't know what you need from me, but if you want to use me as a trap or a puzzle solver of some type, I have to upset you because I have no hell's clue what the hell is even going on here, and moreover, I don't want to be immersed by these ornamented black killer waters. I have no idea how I got here and what on God's landing I am now. For God's sake, the dream is interesting though, but enough for me, I'm leaving. Gods have abandoned this place, haven't they? Archaelo froze in place. He turned to the woman who was repeating the words of the vision he had seen before finding his path to this place. He looked at her, staring through her transparent eyes. What did you... Gods have abandoned this place. You are not the one who saw the vision. The words of prophecy were shown to all owning the sage blood. Archaelo, sorry to disappoint you, but you're not the unique one. We all saw the prophecy. Which prophecy? Who? Oh, what with the blood? He got confused and lost in a second. The ones having the sage blood must be sage and virtuous with all their merits. But you, as I have seen, have nothing common with sage and virtuous. I thought you would be helpful in this tragedy, but now I see I was wrong. I have seen it all. Take him. she ordered. "Take him out and make him forget about stepping onto my lands. Be grateful for the blood that's in your veins that helps you out. Either way, I would have killed and thrown you into the cave. What a waste of celestial liquor to be running in your veins. You don't deserve it." That hit Archaelo. Her last words hit him strongly. All his life, he had been trying to claim that he didn't need, and most importantly, didn't want that blood in him that made him that special and different, even though it had saved him numerous times in his life, and he had to be grateful for that liquor inside his blood vessels. In fact, he hated himself for that. He despised himself many times for his inability to survive without it, and all the possibilities and powers it had offered and given to him. He despised himself until grinding his teeth till blood, training until he would pass out, and loathing every second of his being. "It's the gift, Archaelo, you silly child," he heard the voice of his old man, as he was lying, sweating and breathing hard on the ground. "Take it or leave it, but it's your destiny. You can't run away from it. It's in your blood, it's in you. It is up to you whether you take it and fulfill your destiny, or you despise yourself till the end of your life and spend your life in hiding from your true self, refusing and raging the gods and ending up with not a single feeling of peace, in search of freedom while always running from it, with your own will until the last breath of your life." Archaelo saw the face of the old man looking down on him while the sun was up and the clouds were running in the blue sky. "Gradually you will understand, and take it. You don't need to hide from something which is already in you. As long as you are ashamed of yourself, you will never attain peace. And feeling peaceful is the key to this life, son. Now stand up and take your sword." Archaelo felt a strong blow and urgent to his body, as the slim hand put him back on his feet and threw his sword at him. "And don't let even a drop of blood spill out of you. Protect and gird every single of it like the liquid of your spirit. Face all your fears and fight them. Be grateful for all you have got, as nothing is given from the sky. Face all your fears and fight them." Archaelo repeated the words of his preacher's old man. The queen looked at him with a confused face. "As nothing is given from the sky," he said it now clearly. The student place turned around and repeated, looking straight at her. "Nothing is given from the sky, including my blood, my queen. Ask what you want me to deal with. I will try my best." The queen was a little shook, but hid it with her side smile through her frowned brows. "Very well." Archaelo was sitting on top of the bank, with his leg crossed, looking at the waters, waiting for the queen to finish her preparations. "Trixia, the bowl," she ordered, and the bald woman brought a see-through jug with some light blue liquor inside flying like air. "Hold on," he stopped her as she was going to pour it into the pond. "Don't pour it inside. You will steal the water. Keep it as it is. We will work with what we have raw. Couldn't you read any of the symbols?" "We had many theories. We tried to connect it with the lunar system, the calendar, the star phases. Nothing flowed out of it. The more we got closer to one anagram or the code, the further we were from the circle that was formed right after it." "Did they start to appear one by one, or did they come along with the swamp at the same time?" "The first ones had formed loosely from the beginning. Later they became clearer and other smaller and further ones appeared next." And they started shining as you went closer to resolving them? The woman thought about it but was not sure of the answer. I'm sure the more you solved, the more they started shining. But I recognize none of these symbols. Isn't it something out of your origin? It's your land, your runes or something must have a single clue. And the fact that I can't enter the water, there's something non-correlating here. We have already lost our scholars in this search, Archaelo. These are not even runes, they are... She shook her head, not knowing what to say. The planets! Archaelo's eyes suddenly sparkled. They are the planets! How could I not know from the beginning? They have been forming one after another, different in size and shape, but still similar in lines. What are the planets? She asked in confusion. Yes, how could you know? You have never seen the solar system. Well, planets are like small stars apart from one another, forming a whole constellation that circles around the biggest star. The symbols must be their representation in the anagrammic or logogrammic form, but how is it connected to the swamp and the illness of the forest? I cannot know if I don't go in. No, she refused. I don't know if you noticed, but you already keep getting something out of it. I won't let you drown in. Archaelo, you are my only hope. The queen was devastated. In the look of her eyes, Archaelo saw the begging mother patron who was asking him for help to save her kingdom and her lands. Please, use your powers, use the prophecy, find another way. He stared at her and said, At least I can try, and jumped straight into the water. The queen screamed, bending down, trying to catch him, but wordlessly. Archaelo disappeared in the dark waters, which kept and turned into the dead. The second Archaelo fell, he felt the strong pressure pulling him down. There was nothing and no one, but something was pulling him to the bottom. He was out of air. Archaelo opened his eyes and saw light water surrounding him with some gray white invisible hands around his shoulders. The voices around him begged to save, as some faces of the skulls with no eyes swept all around him. The spirits of the dead, he thought. I am not going to the kingdom of the dead. Not now, until I solve the hell out of this shit. Until I fulfill my mission. If this pond is dead, then it must be guarded under the protection of the underworld keeper. Archaelo concentrated his all efforts, air, strength, and held his sword tightly. Dagada, in the name of Kundra, I order all the spirits of the dead inhabiting these waters, cut the darkness and show me the light. Archaelo held his sword up, and instantly the pond was cut with a blinding lightning going up in the air, cutting all the mist and darkness in the forest. He was holding on his sword, grasping it up as strong as he could, screaming in the waters as the vision struck him right at the second, almost breaking his spine with the instant seizure. His eyes were all white, rolled over, his mouth wide open, his sword struck between his palms. The gods shall return. That's what we are doing here. Everything must be ready. We won't let anyone, including tramp fighters, magical beasts, and dancers, to cross our way. Our mission is holy. We must foresee everything, eliminate the threat, and have a fine welcome for the creators. Our lands are far more different and phase-changed than we had envisioned, Gregarius, an old man with old, slow voice said in response. We can't start distracting if we don't know what we are facing. We all have plenty of spies all over our lands for that, a younger voice responded. And in any way, it is our duty and in our power to rule over the lands and creatures that are mandated to us. You are right, Grandmaster, another voice interfered. But we have waited long enough for it to already start moving. We are ready. The shadows and dim lights shaped 4 large figures sitting in a circle. We all think we are ready, Magistros, the one who talked first and was named Gregarious said again. We foresee your advice and we will act accordingly. I have seen many nations and vast lands perishing from earth because of impatience. Be aware, Gregarious, even gods mistaken gravely in the absence of readiness. Lack of preparation and an overloaded lust lights flames to the fire able to destroy the whole universe. I have said all. I hope you won't have to tell me I didn't warn you. The old man got up with light difficulty and left the gathering. What do you see coming, Master? Gregarious rolled at his back, the question worrying him. The grand destruction. The master left the gathering with all 3 men staring at his figure, slowly disappearing in dark. Gregarious, do you think we should spare the time? The world has seen many distractions. It won't be an unusual one. Still, if it is the grand one, it only provisions the birth of the new world. We must be the builders of the new era. Every destruction builds a new creation. We must be ready for the birth of the new world. The new world, the new era, the new age is coming. Archaelo breathed out, opening his eyes and coming on the surface. Quickly, get him out! He felt strong hands pulling him out. He was put on the grass, all soaked and shaking. Take him to the rooms, right now, the queen ordered. Archaelo coughed some water out. The new age, he whispered with his eyes closed. The destruction, the new age is coming. The queen looked down on him with a face of terror. Archaelo, what did you see? She uttered, staring at his almost lifeless body.